How worried should you be about the worldwide cyber attack?
It's important for our business and individuals to know that 3 variants of this ransomware are reported to have emerged.
The latest on one of the world's most extensive cyber attacks ever. And now to Carol Marin and the computer attack making headlines around the world. Carol.
Phil, thank you. It may make you want to cry if your business or home computer was hit with the latest cyber attack. The so-called ransomware attack, also known as WannaCry, began in Europe and has affected 200,000 computers in 150 countries. Hospitals, universities, warehouses, and banks were ground to a halt, and even though there is a fix for it now, the widespread infiltration has inspired malware copycats. Joining us to kind of give us a primer on all of this, Hardik Bhatt. He is Illinois' Chief Information Officer, who is in charge of the state's new cybersecurity plan to guard against attacks on state agencies. Jacob Furst, a professor at DePaul University's College of Computing and Digital Media. He's an expert in computer security and is the director of the DePaul Information Assurance Center. And Sanjiv Bawa, CEO and founder of the Chicago-based technology infrastructure management, security, and cloud hosting company, Chi Networks. Welcome all of you to Chicago tonight. So, Hardik Bhatt, shall we begin? What is this ransomware WannaCry?
Well, it's basically a computer program that is sent to you, and you don't know what you're clicking on. You click on a link, you get that particular program that executes on your computer. And then the bad thing about this, and the professor can tell you more academically, but it's got a worm attached to that propagates through your network to all of the other connected computers and affects all of them and takes your data hostage. And until you pay them, they keep the data hostage.
So I might get this in an email. It might say, Carol, you should really read this. I'll click and the worms go wild and I'm stuck, correct?
Correct, if you do not have the right security patches on your computer.
And so, Professor, then what happens in terms of ransom?
It's not actually clear. So the idea is all your files are encrypted, not accessible to you. The only one who can decrypt those files and restore them are the ones who sent you the ransom notice. They're criminals. You pay the money, do you get your files back? Who knows?
So I click on this, my computer freezes up or won't give me my information. Does a storyboard or a post come up and say, pay up right this minute?
Absolutely, right. So that was the shot you saw on the screen at the beginning of the show, was your files have been encrypted. You have 3 days to pay $300 in Bitcoins to this particular address, and if you don't, then you'll never get your files back.
So Sanjiv Bawa, what if I don't think I have Bitcoins? Where am I going to get them?
Well, there's a lot of exchanges where you can buy them at, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't be giving in to the hackers. What you will find is over a period of time there will be people who come up with solutions to decrypting the files, assuming of course that you don't have a backup, which you should, and a lot of people don't. You definitely don't want to be paying off the makers of the ransomware.
Do we know who the makers of the ransomware are?
So far, I don't believe they have been identified.
And if I decide to pay them off because I'm in a hurry and I want my data, do the Bitcoins trace to them, or is it an anonymous payoff?
No, it's largely an anonymous payoff. There are ways to track Bitcoins back, but it's a little bit difficult. Somebody would have to have made a mistake.
And if I pay them off, are they automatically going to say, here's the key to your encrypted material, now you can have it back, or are they gone?
Likely they're gone. I certainly wouldn't count on, again, criminals honoring any kind of contract. Mostly what you're doing by paying is furthering more malware down the road.
And when we talk about backup, what specific kinds of backup is meaningful and what kind of backup is not?
So I think in general, if you back up your data, if you have all the way up to, like, let's say last week, yesterday, then you can actually wipe your hard drive and bring all your data back, so you're not losing much. And that's what we do basically at the state of Illinois, is we keep backing up all of our data up to 24 hours so that we can get it back.
Do we back it up on the cloud? Do I back it up on a hard drive that I plug in? what's the best way for me to back it up?
There are multiple ways you can back up the data, but the best way to do that, if you're on a personal computer, to back it up on the cloud, because that's where you can quickly get it back.
So who is this ransomware truly affecting? I mean, do we know who's really been hit and who hasn't been hit?
Well, so mostly what we know is it's large organizations across the world. Most individual users already had the patch in place, and so in fact were protected. Microsoft issued a patch for this almost 2 months before the ransomware hit. But larger organizations especially, it's not as simple for them to actually install a new version of the operating system, and there's a lot of wait time. So we're likely to see organizations that either had old operating systems or were taking their time in patching.
So is your phone ringing off the hook, Sanjiv, over this?
Oh, heck no. We do a good job of protecting things, so our customers don't call us with problems like this.
So who are the customers and who are they calling who do need help?
The people who haven't done their homework. This is a proactive business. What you need are, is either an IT security department or a vendor or somebody who's taking care of protecting your systems if you're an organization. If you're a personal user, then you're kind of on your own, and you need to make sure that your systems are patched and you're not clicking on links you shouldn't be.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people don't know if they've got a patch or not. Correct?
I agree. A lot of people and organizations would not know if they are patched or not.
So help me here. How do I know if I've got a patch?
So generally when you start your computer or when there is a change happens, the Microsoft sends you a notification. There are settings that you can set on your computer that allows you to automatically update your computer, or you get a notification. You can proactively update that if you want to. But companies, especially Microsoft and other operating systems, do tell you that you have a security patch that you should apply to your computer.
What if I have a Mac? What if I'm an Apple person?
Well, right now you're safe. Not to say that Apples are immune, but this particular ransomware took advantage of a Windows vulnerability. So it's only affecting Windows.
How is it, as I read this, that these kinds of malwares can reproduce or morph? I mean, what's the mechanism by which this occurs?
Well, once they take over your computer, the malware can do whatever it wants. The very first thing it will attempt to do is look up, in many cases, your address book and send itself to everybody on that book. And after that, it will attempt to find whatever's open out on the internet and try to infect whatever it can find.
It sounds like malware's got a brain. Does malware have a brain?
No. It's got a programmer who's written some very basic functionality into it. But wait a few years and the malware will have artificial intelligence capability, and it will have some brain.
Oh, great.
Yes.
And so is the purpose of the creation of this ransomware to create mayhem? Is it to make money? I mean, what's the methodology, what's the motive behind it?
It is all of them, Carol. It is, as Professor first said, these are, at the end of the day, these are criminals. I mean, they do want to create mayhem, they want to create chaos, they want to make money, all of those. But I would say we don't need to glorify them. I think basically what we need to do is hackers are getting smart, and we all need to get smarter, and we need to stay a step ahead of them to make sure that we don't get infected. Well, in this particular case, we were fortunate it started in Europe, and it was out on the tweet. It was out in Wall Street Journal, CNN, and a lot of organizations in the US got notified very quickly. So those that were alert quickly moved and started protecting themselves.
And so how do I differentiate this from other kinds of things that may come to my computer, the spam that shows up, or when it looks like I've been hacked?
So you don't, actually. You treat them all the same. You patch. You don't open suspicious links, right? You just have a sort of slightly paranoid mindset about anything that has to do with technology, because a year from now, it's going to be a different threat. And so trying to treat this one specially is probably not the right approach. You just want to maintain vigilance about anything and everything.
So supposing I do open a link and then go, oh my God, I've opened a link. Is there a way to retrace my steps, or is there an antidote?
Well, the best thing you could do if you think you've been infected is to shut the machine down right away. To encrypt files takes time. It takes sometimes very long time. A virus like this might run for several days. In fact, they're programmed to run over the weekend and at night when your computer's on but you're not using it, because it will chew up a large part of the processing capacity of the system and it'll slow it down. So they've programmed it to do this work in the background. If you think you've been infected, one of the best things you could do is shut the machine down and have somebody take a look at it who knows what they're doing.
And when you talk about this happening at night, is it better just to turn my computer off at night anyway, no matter what? I mean, is there something sort of prophylactic about that?
I would advise that it'll also save some power. Globally, if all computers can shut down at night, yes.
Have you ever been hacked?
Personally, I have never been hacked.
Have you ever opened an attachment that you wish you had not?
No, I'm very cautious, and that's what we also, at State of Illinois, we are training all of our 50,000 employees just to be extremely aware of the threats of cybersecurity.
And have you been hacked, Professor?
Well, not technically, although my sons were. You don't get into this business unless you get a little bit of professional paranoia. We have all been trained, we have all been conditioned not to do dangerous things.
Same for you, Sanjiv. Ever been hacked?
I've cleaned up a lot of messes at a lot of customers, but no, not yet. But we experiment with a lot of viruses that come in.
Help me understand what a kill switch is. As I'm reading through all of the clips today, there was the question of the kill switch. Is the kill switch a good thing or a bad thing, and what does it do, and why is it there?
It's a line in the code that can presumably shut the program down. Why it's there in malware, never quite clear.
Okay, so the kill switch is in the bad stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Not in the good stuff, and not in, okay. And then what does it do again now?
It shuts the program down. It turns the program off.
You mean it turns off Microsoft? Or
Turns off the malware. Turns off WannaCry.
But isn't that a good thing?
Yes. So it's a bit of a mystery why it's there. But presumably someone wanted to have some control remotely of this.
You've really
software.
confused me now. So you've got a bad guy who is infecting a computer, who puts in a kill switch so that he can save me from the bad stuff. Is that right?
Carol, you might offer the guy $10 million if he shut everything down, right?
Okay.
So assuming
I see.
you offered him $10 million and he said yes, and he'd have a way of shutting everything down. So that's possibly what this person may have been thinking when they designed that.
How many of these people are there out there, do you suppose?
Many.
Yeah.
And
an exact number?
Let me quantify that.
Yes, could you please?
More than a few.
But I mean, and are they making a living doing this?
They are making a living doing this. This is their day job.
And is there glory in this?
There's a lot of glory in this.
Because you're the genius who's wrecking the system?
Absolutely, absolutely. In all the forums, you can go brag about stuff, and you know, that's what you've done.
Sociopathic glory, but absolutely in the right crowd. This is an achievement.
So in the dark web, by the way, where is the dark web?
It is basically, you cannot put your address like you do www.wttw11.com, and you can go to WTTW11's website. These dark web is basically something that you cannot go directly through there. There are Tors that you can use to go behind the scenes and see what's happening. It's dark. It's dark web.
So you can download a browser. It's called a Tor browser.
Spell that, please.
T-O-R.
Okay.
So just type in Tor and download the browser, and it's as
Then I'm in
simple
the
as that.
dark channels of the web?
Yes.
And then what happens?
Well, you can go to websites. The difference between the dark and the normal web is that you can go to these places and you don't know necessarily where they are.
Or who you're dealing with.
Or who you're dealing with. On a normal browser, you can always trace back an IP address to some location. With the Tor browser, you just cannot figure out where that person or website is located.
As experts in all of this, do you know the people of the dark web? I mean, is it in your professional interest to understand their pathology or their motivation? And do you know them?
Not me.
A couple, not too many.
And so describe, please.
They're children. Most of them are.
In their mother's in their pajamas in their mother's basement kind of children?
Yes, a lot of them are just children, and a lot of them have grown up, but a lot of them are just simply children.
Is that your experience as well?
I have not experienced any of the people dealing with the dark web, but there are stories out there. I mean, there are articles in mainstream press about the dark web that talks about some gruesome stories about how dark web can be used to basically take money to kill, and those are kind of things that also happen.
So all of you have a protected computer at home and at work, correct?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Then will you come to my house tonight? And please figure this out, because I find it absolutely frightening. Jacob First and Sanjiv Bawa and Hardik Bhatt, thank you very much for being with us on Chicago Tonight and scaring us to death.
Thank you.